Hey everyone, this is Steve from the Smoking Standard. This is my partner Zach, and we were just conducting a little business meeting today. Again, in the podcast world, we like to go over topics we're going to cover, kind of how we're going to structure some things, just always making the improvements because we're new at this thing and we really want to grow it the correct way to bring the best content and presentation to our viewers. In doing so, we started getting into does the cut matter with the cigar performance and flavor debate? So we figured, hey, why not? Let's just put it on the video. So here we go. We're going to go ahead and we're going to cut our cigars. And as we cut them, we're going to tell you what we're using to cut it. And then we're going to get into the debate of straight cut, V cut, punch cut, and how that's going to play into the cigar flavor and the performance. Real quick, I was at a local cigar lounge in Fayetteville, North Carolina yesterday, Anstead's, and I ran into a cigar that I've been looking for from a brand standpoint, but I was fortunate enough to find the cigar in the blend that I actually is one of my favorites with one of my most favorite wrappers. And it is the El Rey del Mundo Oscuro. Connecticut broadleaf wrapper with Honduran, Dominican long fillers, and this is an outstanding cigar for my palate. So I grabbed the entire box so Zach could have an opportunity to smoke it as well. So we're both smoking the same cigar. Again, we're going to utilize our preferred cut for this blend. Zach, you want to go ahead and cut yours
So I
get
already
it lit
did
up?
it, got
Okay.
ahead because a punch can be a delicate little thing.
Yeah.
So standard little vertigo punch. I keep it in my golf bag, keep it on my keys. It's my preferred method for smoking outdoors. Uh, kind of what brought us out here in the backyard and brought us on this topic is I'm not sure if there is a scientific explanation behind what cut you choose, when you choose it, why you choose it. I just like a punch outdoors because I feel like it slows everything down. You got wind cutting across you on a golf course. You know, in between swings, you're just ripping on it as fast as you can, trying to keep it lit. And I think a punch just does a great job of slowing down that smoke, keeping a more even burn pattern. But as far as flavor concentration, I'm not really sure. So here's my little punch. And, cheaper punch lighters, this one's pretty decent, but cheaper ones tend to kind of crack your cap, so you got to be careful with that. And I don't like putting my mouth all over something and then sticking a tool in there that I'm going to hand to somebody else to use. So if you're going to do a punch, go slow, take your time, twist it, push it gently, even pressure. And I probably took about like 4 layers out, which is why I started before you. Wanted to take one layer at a time until I got to a point where it's going to have a good draw, but it's not um, compromising the cap.
Yeah. I would tell you for me, so I chose a straight cut. And again, on the straight cut, the key to your straight cut is going to be, and I'll show you on mine, you want to be sure that when you do your straight cut, you still have a little bit of the contour of the cap is intact. So when you do your straight cut, really you're designed just to snip off that top cap and have the most uh, largest opening to get the most smoke and flavor and strength from the cigar all in one draw. I will tell you that Zach and I utilize all 3 cuts. One of my favorite vitolas in that is hard to find in most all of the blends is the Bellicoso, which of the pointier heads of the cigars, Bellicoso, Torpedo, Pyramid, that is the most, it's not as drastic, but it's one of those cigar caps that you can cut off either straight or you can V-cut it to maintain the integrity of the cap of that cigar through your smoking experience. The reason why I used a straight cut today is this is the only second time I've smoked this cigar ever. So I want to continue to get as much of the cigar experience and all the flavor nuances and the strength in my mouth at one time. And again, we are smoking outside. There's a little bit of a breeze out here. I'm not necessarily sure it's going to really affect the burn a whole lot, as opposed to, like you say, we're out on the golf course and you got a lot of wind going, and the cigar is either going to burn hot or it's going to burn out really quick. One of the things you also want to be careful of with the standard guillotine cut or the straight cut is, depending on how far along you are in your cigar journey and you've really understood the time and the pace of smoking a cigar, a straight cut is real easy if you start hammering that cigar, whether like you're in a conversation or you're just new and you're not really sure how long you can let the cigar go, and then go ahead and take another draw and kind of get your whole pace of smoking out. The cigar can smoke too hot. So again, there's a lot of little nuances to learn about what cut you're using on that cigar. At some point, for me, and I think Zach, you share the same thing as well, it is your preference on how you want to enjoy that cigar. So, one other thing about the straight cut, I would offer this to the beginners out there that are watching this. If you happen to go into a cigar lounge by yourself now, you don't have your cigar buddies with you that are going to tell you, oh man, do this, do that, this is what I do, and they're giving you all their input. But if you're a beginner, you go into your local lounge, you're by yourself, you pick out your cigar, and the attendant asks you, how would you like your cigar cut? I would offer that a majority of the time, just go ahead and let them give you a straight cut so you can get the best smoking experience overall from that cigar. If your cigar lounge has an attendant that's on their game and they're really all about the hospitality, they're going to have a good recommendation for that cut anyway.
Yeah.
So you really can't go wrong there. But typically, your straight cuts are going to be reserved for your parejos, which is your traditional cylindrical cigar. You can cut a bellicoso tip off there if that's just your preference. Robustos, the different sizes of cigar are going to also play into that cut as well. Now, Zach, on this topic of, okay, you used the punch on a Toro, okay? If you were smoking this same blend in a Robusto, would you have still used a punch?
Outdoors, yeah.
Okay.
And that's the only modifier. I punch outdoors. Now, if I was indoors, yeah, I'd just lop the end of this thing clean off and smoke it and get all that flavor and all that airflow. I never smoked a cigar either, so I didn't know really how tightly it's rolled. This is a tightly rolled cigar. So this punch is really amplifying how hard it is to draw that air through. You got a fat end on there. I don't even know what this is, a 50...
This is a 54, 56.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a 56 ring gauge in and an eraser, pencil eraser out. It's definitely funneling, and there's some tight, long fillers in there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the punch for me is just indoors versus outdoors.
Okay.
And I think indoors I typically just lop the ends off.
Right.
Unless I know it's a particularly loose cigar, then I'll probably just go for a V and just try to slow that air down. But as far as changing flavors, I don't think it exists. Sometimes I like to get crazy and do a rosebud cut. I don't know. A lot of people are like, what is that?
Yeah.
Like, it's just a V and then a V.
Yeah.
I don't think it does anything. It's just fancy.
You know, I have a buddy of mine that's real big on the rosebud cut, the crown cut.
Yeah.
It's called a couple different things depending on, what circles you're operating in.
Yeah.
But he will do it on a 50 ring gauge or a 48 ring gauge. And
Yeah.
I'm like, bro, stop.
You're
stop,
just
stop,
opening
stop.
the entire end of it anyways, so
I'm
just
like,
cut it off.
And again, and typically I am not the one that's going to like interject and be like, you're doing it wrong. You need to do it this way, smoke it this way. But I'm going like, I've watched him do it before.
Yeah.
And then I sit there and watch him keep pulling the pieces of that, the top two layers of the cap out of his mouth.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, and I look at the end of it, I'm like going like, okay, can I please explain to you what that just did to your cigar and your smoking experience? Because I'm seeing you pulling all the tobacco out of your mouth.
Yeah.
For me, that cut, and I don't mind that cut, that's like 60. That's a Gordo for me.
Yeah.
right off the rip, because because you can do the cut, it looks really cool, but it preserves the cap structure in its entirety. Anything less than that, like I said, straight cut or the V cut.
Well, so then that brings my mind to LFDs, right? Well, you said 60 ring gauge, and I went like the Sixto, right? Alma Fuerte. But then I also, a cigar that I just picked up for the first time the other day, and there's no reason I haven't smoked it yet, but the LFD Colorado Oscuro in a 60 ring gauge. So it's like a 6x60. Man, that's a meaty cigar.
Mm-hmm.
That thing is no joke, but super flavorful, and it's rolled really tightly. So the guy that actually recommended it to me likes to chew on the ends of his cigars. Like, and I'm not talking like the old school dude, you know, that walked around all day and chewed on a cigar. Like, as he's smoking it down, he likes to just roll it and like clench down on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think it's a comfort thing or whatever. I don't know, or like a tick or like a habit. But he gave me one of those. That's a cigar you could definitely rosebud cut.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other side of LFD's line, chisel tips. So I like to top punch chisel tips. I probably smoked LFD for like 5 years before somebody actually told me about it. I was like, nah, it doesn't do anything. Nah, it works. Actually, it was right around the same time I realized you could put a chisel tip in your mouth, let it saturate for like 10 seconds, and then just slide the cap off.
Oh yeah, that's
I didn't
exactly
know.
why they're
I
designed.
literally was cutting chisel tips for like 5 years before somebody said, by the way, you can chisel tip or you can punch the ramp and you can dissolve the cap in your mouth. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But, and then so now I tell people all the time, even last week, I taught 2 people to punch the ramp on a chisel.
So you bring up an interesting point about why you put that punch in the chisel. So let's get these lit up
Yeah.
because we're wasting good tobacco right here, and we'll get into the types of cuts and how they play in your mouth, because ultimately you found that punching that chisel is how does it play in your mouth.
Yeah.
So while we're getting these lit up, that's really where a lot of the debate comes from with the type of cut and what are you getting off the performance of that cigar from the flavor and the strength profile. Now, the blend is always going to be the blend and the flavor is always going to be the flavor. Where the cuts come in is the concentration at any one draw in your mouth at that time, right? So for example, we talked about already with the straight cut. It's a new blend. I've been smoking cigars for over a decade, 3 or 4 cigars a day, but I have a cigar blend that I have not smoked before.
Yeah.
Go back to the basics, right? Straight cut it, get as much of the flavor, as much of the smoke, as much of the nicotine intensity as I can in any one draw, and I'm literally learning about the cigar as I smoke it. Now, the V cut. The reason why I bring up how you top punch your chisel is the performance of that style that you have discovered plays the same way the V cut plays. The V cut is going to channel the smoke because of the V. So we're talking about it's a V, right? We got a valley coming into your mouth. It's going to project that smoke on any one draw right on your tongue, which is going to roll it right to the roof of your mouth, much like your top punch on your chisel.
Yeah, I mean, I like the top punch because I think it delivers a colder smoke. And I don't know how scientific that is, if you can actually measure the distance the smoke travels in your mouth and how it cools down. But as it comes in, it smashes into the roof of your mouth and just kind of falls over your tongue. So instead of, and a lot of pipe smokers will understand this, like the tongue bite. You're sucking concentrated hot air through a plastic tube right onto your tongue.
Yep.
And if you're not careful, if there's too much moisture in the tobacco, if you didn't let your pipe rest long enough, it has moisture in there because that heat's going to draw moisture into the wood.
Yep.
Or if you're kind of like backfeeding spittle into the neck down into the chamber, it'll flash vapor that and send it right to your tongue and
Right.
burn the hell out of you. So if you think about it the same way, I mean, it's the same principle. You're funneling it down through a narrow neck and delivering it right to the tongue. If you bypass the tongue and hit the roof of the mouth, then when that smoke falls back down, I mean, I truly have to believe that it's a cooler smoke. And a lot of LFDs have thick, chewy smoke.
Right.
So as that cools down, it's just gonna feel thicker in your mouth.
Right. So this thickness that Zach and I are talking about when you take any one draw off your cigar and the smoke, how it plays in your mouth, that's going to draw into another debate or an education for that is it's batted around in lounges and in podcasts all the time with body versus strength. So not to get into that whole thing right now, but that's what Zach is alluding to right now. And that's what we're talking about with our different cuts. How does the body of that cigar play in your mouth? Because that's what the body does. It affects your mouth.
Yeah.
With the flavor, the silkiness of the smoke, the thickness of the smoke. A lot of some of the textures of that tobacco are going to come off in your mouth because the wrapper's in your mouth. The strength of the cigar affects your body on the whole. Because now we're talking central nervous system, how much nicotine you put in your system, things of that nature.
So yeah, strength is nicotine.
Yep.
If you think of it that way, strength equals nicotine.
Yep.
What does nicotine do to the human body?
Yep.
Where body is more of the cigar.
So these cuts that we're talking about, that is exactly what it's referring to, is how does the body affect your mouth, in turn affect your smoking experience with any one cigar blend that you happen to be smoking. So we've talked about the straight cut, the V cut, now we've got the punch cut. So again, you're utilizing the punch cut right now for all the reasons that you want to utilize the punch cut. The punch cut is going to be, like you said, Zach was talking about, it's taking a 54, 56 ring gauge cigar of, tobacco. And when you take your draw off of that, it's funneling it and it is basically reducing it down to come out the punch hole into your mouth. So you're going to get a more intense draw off of the punch cut from a strength perspective because you're going to get a load of nicotine punch like forced in there. You may miss some of the nuances of the body of the cigar based on the size of the hole that you punched. Now, the punch cut, much like the V cut, and we can play with that crown cut, rosebud cut, I've been messing around playing with my punch cuts.
Yeah.
So on a cigar of this ring gauge, which is probably the smallest I would mess with it, so a V cut is a V cut. Now, unless you're smoking a boxed press cigar, you can V cut north to south, you can V cut east to west. On a Parejo, it doesn't matter because you're spinning it in your mouth, the cut is just going to be all over the place. So there's no real directional significance there. But the punch cut, same way. So I make my little snowman punch cut. I just move it top of center, move it lower of center, do 2 punches, and now I've got an elongated draw from, it's not a V cut, but it's still giving me more nicotine in the vertical manner. So basically, I have taken the concentration of the punch cut and just opened it up into one more hole size, and I just roll with it like that.
I don't recommend anybody do that. You're gonna destroy your cap.
It actually doesn't.
No,
because
no.
the bigger the cap, the more you preserve.
Yes.
Okay.
But most people can't do a single punch cut without cracking their cap. So don't go for 2.
Again, we're talking 56, 58, 60s.
Buy a bigger punch.
It's a safe bet.
Buy a bigger punch.
So, but again.
And most of these lighters have punches on them, if not 2.
Yeah.
So they'll have a small and a large, or a medium and a large.
Well, and I would argue, I love that we've got the Swiss knife of cutters sitting around here, and we've got the stick. We could, we got a tight draw. We've got a punch. We've got a V cut. We can do all of those things. For me, the reason why I have an individual punch cut itself, when you put this big old thing in your hand, which I just did that right there, but you try to punch your cigar with this big lighter and your fingers on top and you're trying to get it through, I would offer, for me, that's how I mess up most of my caps.
Oh yeah. Or
100%.
you're just dragging this giant thing down the side of as you're trying to press it, you're just pushing this down the side of your thing.
You can't feel where the pressure's coming from. So I use an individual punch cut for me.
Spend $3.
Yeah,
go
it's
buy
the safest way to do it. Yep.
buy 10 of them, throw 3 in your golf bag because you're going to lose them. You'll put one in your center console, put one on your keys, put one in your travel
Yeah.
humidor.
Yeah.
Like,
They're everywhere.
it's $3. If it goes bad, if you lose it or you break it, just go buy another one.
Yeah.
Going back to, and I was letting you run with it. If you go into a lounge that doesn't have an attendant and you're like, oh crap, I gotta cut my own cigar, just go for the biggest, beefiest, like benchtop cutter and just cut it quick and hard. So I see so many people like trying to fiddle with these, trying to do little V cuts, and they just end up tearing the cigar instead of cutting them.
Yeah.
Speed and determination will
Yeah.
probably get you the best straight cut that you can get.
And make no mistake, doing a straight cut, there is some there's a space for you to mess up your cigar that way too.
Yeah.
One, obviously you just cut too much of the cap off, okay? But two is a lot of people, again, how hard do I squeeze? You know, am I going to crush the cigar? Things of that nature. What I prefer to do, and I think a lot of people do this as well, when I put my guillotine cutter on the cap of my cigar, I just give it a nice little twist and kind of get that first little cut of where I'm going to go into the cigar first and then snip it off right there. It eases the tension I have to apply on that cigar. Again, if it's placed correctly on the head of the cigar.
Yeah, and I would caution people against that too as beginners, because you just said twist, and you got to be real careful when you go against the wrap. So if you're going to twist it at all, I would highly recommend just going in the direction that the wrap is going, because if you turn that backwards with too much pressure, you're just going to tear through the cap anyways.
Yeah.
So, but just play with it. You can't really ruin a cigar. Short of like dropping it on the ground and just cracking all the way through it. If there's a little defect in it, there's a little pinhole, a little crack on the shoulder, something's wrong, you could still smoke it and it's still going to be a wonderful cigar.
Well, and you know, the overarching theme of all this is that there is, so the question ultimately that we started with was, does it affect the performance and the flavor of the cigar? So
I don't believe so at all.
for me, I say yes, but because of all the things we've talked about, there's nuances to cutting your cigar as well. There's a little bit of skill involved. There's a way to learn how to do it. And again, the more you smoke, the more you're going to figure it out and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, from an actual body of the cigar, understanding what body is, which means it's affecting the draw in your mouth, that's where the cut of the cigar is going to come into play for you.
Yeah.
So if you, again, for the beginners out there, either take the recommendation of your cigar buddies that have been doing it for a while, let them guide you through it. If you're by yourself in a lounge and the attendant is there and they know what they're doing, just ask them to go ahead and give you a straight cut. So that way it just takes a little bit of the air out of it, and you can smoke a cigar if you don't smoke regularly and get the full experience of both the nicotine and the body of the cigar all in one draw all the time. And you can learn, you learn about your palate that way. So
my recommendation is pick a cut, straight or V, or punch. I don't care. Pick whatever you want to do and do it to every cigar, because then you're eliminating any factor of any change. I mean, if you're through your path of learning cigars and flavor profiles and body and strength and what different wrappers taste like, different countries of origins tobacco tastes like, just eliminate that factor and just say, I'm going to straight cut everything, because you can't go wrong.
we appreciate you hanging out on the back porch of the Smoking Standard headquarters with us. I'm Steve, this is Zach, and this is the Smoking Standard, covering, does the cut of your cigar affect the performance and the flavor profiles? We'll see you again soon.